In this video, I'm going to talk about how to get started with PiPresents, and we're going to download it, install it, and start some example shows. Now, this is assuming that you have your operating system set up, and normally that would be the Raspberry Pi, but what I'm doing today is on Linux Mint on my desktop computer. So let's open up the website, and that will actually send us to GitHub to download it. And we are going to look at the PiPresents next, which is a little bit more up to date than the other one and gets updates more often. Now it gives you a whole list of things here that you install before installing PiPresents. And in Linux Mint, some of these are already there. So I have it on my blog. I described which items you need, and that's right here. And a lot of these I already had these installed, but we can run the command and it'll tell us that. So that's already installed. To get PiPresents itself, well, first of all, let's talk about the player. The other player here is MPV instead of the OMX player that's on the Raspberry Pi. OMX is designed specifically for the Raspberry Pi and the ARM chip. But since this is my desktop, I don't have an ARM chip, I have an Intel chip, and OMX player is not designed for that. MPV is a descendant of the M player and M player 2, and someone else had created a branch of PiPresents that uses the MPV player, which I had to do some experimenting to get it to run on Linux because they had done it for the QB board. And I also have Git in here, which makes it easier to install PiPresents and other things that are on Git. So the command to do that is your normal sudo apt-get install. Of course, I already have those on here. Git, but we can run it. And then to download PiPresents, I have it in my GitHub repository in a special branch. So for the command to get it from Git would be to git clone. And clone means to copy all the data down. And to download from a special branch, you use the -B and then the name of the branch, which in our case is the QB board. And then you tell it the address and then you tell it which folder you want it to be in. Since we are in the home folder, we put a dot there, and then PiPresents would be the folder underneath the home folder. And it just takes a couple seconds for it to download, and it's in there. And we can take a look at it. It's this folder right here. And we have the PiPresents. This is what runs when you run a show, and we need to change that so it's executable. And we also need to change the permissions on the editor to make it executable. And to make this more user-friendly, we can add a launcher to the desktop, which I already had one, but we'll go ahead and create a new one. and it actually runs with Python. And we can change the icon. Triple click there to select everything in the box. PiPresents. Now it should run. There it is. Alright, there's our editor. Now to get the examples, you can look at the PiPresents the information on the GitHub site. The examples are on a GitHub site as well, but they are in a subdirectory, so they're not quite as user-friendly to use GitHub because you end up with a Git directory in your home folder, which you don't really want. So we'll go ahead and mess around with wget and the tarball stuff, and we can paste that into our command line, Control Shift V, and it should download it. There's a big video file, is why it takes a while here to download it. We can see it in the folder, downloading right here. Now let's put a home folder in there too. So we actually need that in the folder above this one, in the actual home folder, and pp home is what PiPresents will look for. So to run PiPresents show from our home folder again, PiPresents, go to the folder, call it PiPresents py, and then we tell it what home folder to use with O, and that is the folder that we're in, except the folder below. Well, okay, here's a weird thing. PiPresents doesn't use the folder that you tell it. It uses the folder below that and the one that's named pp home. So this is correct. We would put pp home in here for most programs, but PiPresents adds that automatically, so we don't need that. And then we would tell it which profile to use with the P option. And we need to look at what the profile names are. We go into the pp home folder, which is a common folder for PiPresents, and then under the profiles folder, all of these are the examples. So the media show is a common one, at least that's the one I use most of the time, so we'll do the media show example. Media show 2. And I typed something wrong. PiPresents. There it is. Now to run it full screen automatically, let's see, to stop it you have to hit Control Break, which is kind of a pain because on my wireless keyboard I don't have a Control Break, so I had to set up a special key for Escape to do that. The full screen option is F, I believe. There it is. And that is the media show example. Now we can look at what that looks like in the editor using our handy shortcut there. Profile open, and it automatically defaults to your user folder, your user's home folder, and then this pp home. That's why we put it where we did. And then the profiles, inside the profiles folder is where it lists all the profiles. So the one that we just did is this one. You have to actually double click on that folder in there, and and then click OK, and then it pulls it in. So this is the show, and then related to that show is a media list, and this is what contains all your tracks. And there's a bunch of different kinds of tracks that you can put in there. And for the media show, you can set up different properties for starting it, repeating, and ending it. There's the ones that I use the most. So that's, a lot of times I change this duration when I'm switching between the Raspberry Pi at home. I have a monitor that doesn't take HDMI. It takes I can't think of the name, DisplayPort, and then this other thing that I've got that doesn't actually carry audio, so I have to plug in my headphones and change this to local all the time, well, on the video player. So that's pretty much it for that. A lot of times I use the show control on these to go to another show, but that's kind of a more advanced topic. So that's pretty much it for the simple, how to get started with PiPresents.